What's up, everybody? Alright, so we're going to be messing around a little bit on this Magica DK. My wife, the flower, she has been running a DK for a long time, and she doesn't really do much with it. It started off as her first character, her first tune, and she started off as a wood elf dragonite that she tried to be a healer with, and it was way before we understood anything about the game. So, uh, as you can imagine, it didn't work out terribly well being a wood elf dragonite healer. But we've gotten better at this and figured things out in the 2 years we've been playing. So she has herself a different healer, but that DK that she does have, she has switched it into a dark elf with becoming a mage tune, and it's her crafter. So obviously she still keeps it around. It's her master crafter. She has everything done on that tune to be able to make whatever she wants. But she's been trying to figure out a way to do things and complete some more content with it, like all the newer dungeons and whatnot, clear up past like elsewhere. She hasn't even attempted any of those dungeons because it just wasn't something she was able to do with this particular tune. So she is asked me about trying to help her, figure something out with Magic a Dragonite, and I think I have at this point, and I'm just kind of messing around with it on the PTS, so you guys can cue in and watch what I'm doing here. Dogs are barking. Sorry about that. Apparently, the mailman stopped by, and now they're upset. But so with this particular build, what I'm doing is messing around on the PTS here because there's one particular set that received a buff, which is this Elfbane set that is a Cyrodiil set. It is a maximum magicka spell damage, increase the duration of your flame damage over time abilities by 5 seconds. That is pretty crazy. And on a Dragonite, that's even more crazy. And the really cool thing about this set is that it doesn't just work for your abilities. It will help keep up the burning status effect. It increases that, and it increases it so much that on like this trial Atronach dummy and on the 3 mil dummy, I can have like a 90 to 95% uptime on the burning status effect, which is really cool because of my Maelstrom Inferno staff. Anything that is well, not my Maelstrom Inferno staff particularly, but my Blockade of Fire. Burning enemies take 20% more damage from this ability, so that helps buff this ability really nicely. And yes, normally people would be running the Unstable Wall, but this is a rotation where I like to get off these first couple abilities that have some long uptimes on them, and then switch over to the back bar so I can get some some good direct damage going off while my dots are going off as well, some single target stuff. So that was kind of what I centered this build around. So every one of my flame damage abilities has an increased uptime. Like my Burning Embers is at 19 seconds, my Engulfing Flames at 19 seconds, my Flames of Oblivion's at 15 seconds. I don't think it's buffing this, to be honest with you. But this is the crazy part. I want you to look at this. I don't know how long this is going to last or if it's meant to be this way, but look at the Zon here. Normally the Zon will do damage every second over 5 seconds. With this build, with this set on, it increases that Zon by another 5 seconds, which it continues to tick. I didn't think it, I figured they would cap the ticks out on this, but it did not. So the Zon will tick for 10 seconds now instead of 5 seconds. So we've doubled the duration of Zon, and we have, for the most part, created a longer uptime on this as well. And it's pretty OP, to be honest with you. When well, let's see if we can get this to do this. Hold on. Come on, Zon proc. Wow. There it goes, for gosh sakes. Watch how long this goes. Watch this. Still going. Still going. Still going. Holy cow, did you see that? Isn't that crazy? Now, once this target dummy resets here, we'll go into combat metrics, and you can see exactly how much damage Zon itself did in this situation. Alright, so Zon, just from the one time it went off, it ticked 11 times. It averaged 1,500 or 15,000 per tick. And the damage that came off of it was 174,000. That's just one proc of the Zon. So this is crazy, in my opinion. That is a lot of damage just from this monster helm. It makes this monster helm just hit like a truck. It's crazy. It really is. When I would do this parse without the Elfbane on, you would be looking at, on the Trial Atronach dummy, Zon would do somewhere between, total DPS would do somewhere between, like, I think, 3,500 and 3,800 damage per second, because it didn't have a large uptime. When it did hit, it hit like a truck, but it had a very small uptime. With a couple of the parses that I've done since adding this Elfbane to this build, we can go back and look at this. Zon was my third most damaging thing. It averaged 5,600. That wasn't even a full parse. Hold on. Here's a full parse. Zon's my third most damaging thing at 7,305. So we doubled the uptime and literally doubled the damage output as well. Zon itself did over 2 million damage just from the monster helm because of this Elfbane set. Now, granted, it does not crit, but I mean, it's still it hit for 137 ticks and averaged 15k per tick, and it maxed out even at some points at almost 35 a tick. So that's huge amounts of damage just from a monster helm right there. And with this particular setup that I am using the obviously the Maelstrom Inferno Staff. I am also using the Elfbane Inferno Staff, Zon Visage and Shoulders. I'm using Spell Strategist on all my body pieces. And I have all of my jewelry, my Elfbane jewelry, Bloodthirsty with spell damage enchantments on them. And This is only active on the back bar, but it's really the only place we need it to be active, to be honest, because if that Zon procs on the back bar, even if we bar swap, it's already got its duration increase while we were on the back bar, so it still stays up even if we're on that front bar. That bonus time uptime, it doesn't go away. And if it procs on the front bar, when we switch to the back bar, it gets that bonus reapplied to it then as well. So regardless of what bar our Zon procs on, as long as we get to that Elfbane bar before it goes off, it will it'll refresh the timer. Not like, it doesn't start it over, but it will still add the 5 seconds onto the whatever time you still have left on the current proc. So it's really nice. I like how it works. So Spell Strategist and Elfbane right now. I went with Spell Strategist with this build mainly because it's relatively easy to get. Now, I'm not saying that, you go into Cyrodiil and you get your coffers and it's easy to get that way. It's just, if you have gold, you can go to gold traders and buy it. Same with the Elfbane. If you have gold, you can go to the gold vendors and buy it. Or the guild traders and buy it, sorry. And that is, when it comes to having a set that can do, or having a build that can do a lot of damage, not having to farm those, the harder veteran trials for the perfected gear and things like that. Now, obviously, perfected gear is going to do better than most other gears that you run across, that for sure. But these two sets hold their own weight. You don't have to try to worry about, getting through hard veteran content trials to complete this gear set. It can be easily bought in traders. The Zon, a little bit tough to get if you don't have a group that's good enough with Scale Call or Peak, but that in turn has become a lot easier for most people just because of the gear sets that are available, giving people better DPS and able to burn through bosses and whatnot. Maelstrom Inferno Staff, this is a pain to get. It really is. I'm not even going to try to lie to you. It is an absolute disaster trying to get the Maelstrom Inferno Staff if you're not very proficient at the Maelstrom Arena. I myself can run through it in about 45-50 minutes, so it's not a big deal. Some people aren't that good at it, and they haven't had enough luck to get the Inferno Staff. If you would just trade this out for another one of your Elfbane staves, you'd actually get a longer uptime. You know what, let's do that. Let's try that out. You'd actually get a longer uptime on your blockade in that situation, because that's the only thing that this isn't buffing, because when I throw down that blockade, when I bar swap, it's the only ability that it doesn't refresh for me. It doesn't add that 5 seconds to. And that's why I had went with the blockade, just for that longer uptime on the blockade. Now, switching out staves, I may be able to go back to the unstable wall, because it'll give me that extra 5 seconds, and then I'll still get the explosion damage on the wall as well. And that might actually come in really close to what the Maelstrom staff is doing with the blockade. So let's try that out. Let's give that a shot here. So we need to go to our weapons, Elfbane. And if you guys didn't know this is the public test server on PC. This is so nice for being able to test things. I mean, obviously that's why it's called test server, but I can't tell you how much gold I've wasted buying gear or improving gear to test on console, and it just not working out the way I wanted it to, and I literally wasted waxes and rosins and everything trying to improve everything high enough to see what it actually does. The test server right here takes a lot of that guesswork out. If I have something in my head that I want to try, I turn on my PC, go over here to the test servers, try it out. If it works, then I can look into doing it on console. If it doesn't, then I didn't waste any of my own time or any of my money or Matt's. Just put some time into it, that's all. So let me get out another Inferno Staff of Elfbane. And this is the cool thing about the test server as well. All this stuff is given to you. Like, every set in the game, every light, medium, and heavy dungeon, overland, trial set is available to you. You can try them all out. The only thing you don't get a coffer for is like the craftable sets. So if you, but you're already considered knowing everything in the game, so you could travel to where the craftable set is and then craft it yourself if you wanted to test that. But I don't really get into that too much, to be honest. But you have everything at your disposal on this test server, so you literally can test anything you want. And I don't know, I think that's really cool. I love it. Alright, so let's go ahead and I need to go into my inventory, go back to supplies, get me some transmute geodes. Just like that, I have 50 transmute geodes. Go into my transmute station, get this other Inferno Staff, and we are going to transmute this to infused. And now go back into our inventory, supplies. We're going to go into our weapons enchantment box, and we're going to find a weapon damage glyph, which is right here. Like, they don't give you a whole bunch of those, but you literally have all of every ability in the game is already maxed out for you. So all you gotta do is just add the points in to be able to make your own potions, make your own poisons, whatever, you know. Make your own food. Most of it's already provided. But if you run through the stuff that they provide, you can always make more, and it doesn't, you know, you already have the ability to do it almost immediately. Alright, so we're going to put this Inferno Staff here. We're going to enchant it with a weapon damage enchantment. Now, let's see. I don't know if they consider this a flame damage ability. They may not. Wonder how long it stayed up for. Let's find out. It may not buff this at all. We'll find out in a second, though. I think it's buffing it. I think I got some extra uptime on that blockade right there. Let's see if it said it was up for 18 or 19 seconds here. Nope, 14 seconds. So that's... It does not buff that staff whatsoever. It does not buff the wall. So that must not be considered a flame damage ability. Even though it's on an Inferno Staff, it must still be considered a weapon damage ability, even though you are using flame. So that must be why that uptime is not improving. So that's gonna shoot what I wanted to do out the window then. So changing it back over to the unstable wall isn't gonna do us any good, because we're not gonna get a longer uptime on it. We're gonna have to shorten our rotation and probably cost us damage. But just for the sake of people that don't have the Maelstrom weapon, I gotta let these buffs fall off. One of the things that I've noticed about this Trial Atronach, at least here on the PTS, if you start a parse before these buffs go off, And when it refreshes the buffs when you already have them on you, some of them don't apply still, even though it says it's on there. It won't apply. One of which is the force that you get, the major force that you get from the Warhorn. If you do one parse and then start one immediately before those raid dummy buffs fall off, then you'll notice, like right here, like my critical damage meter, or my critical damage rating will actually lower because it didn't reapply the major force during that parse. I don't know if I have one on here where it'll show it. Yeah, see, I think that's showing it right there. Normally it's at 115. There it dropped to 105. And there it is at 105 again. So, yeah, I have to let these buffs fall completely off, or it skews numbers for the trial Atronach at least. Alright, buffs have fallen off, so let's go ahead and do this rotation and see what happens here. Maybe you'll get a good look at how unstable these servers can be as well. Sometimes it'll just be a disaster trying to get through a rotation on here because these servers aren't... the test servers aren't managed as well as the regular servers, in my opinion. Just too often do I run into parses that just end up being garbage because all of my abilities lagged out completely. Oh yeah, that standard of might right there, also buffed by the Elfbane, so your ultimate stays up longer, does more damage, and if you're using the standard of might, like I am right here, you are getting a longer uptime on that extra damage that you do inside of it, and the damage reduction that you get for standing inside of it. See, my ability didn't go off there. It did seem to go down kind of quick. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I'll have to look into that. I'll have to test it out. Ah, shoot. Wrong ability. I'll wait to call that standard of might out on the next rotation so I can get the big backspin hit with it here. Yep, there we go, just like so. Helps that big backspin hit for like 63k or something like that when it crits, and then in execute mode, it'll hit for even more than that. I've seen it hit for like over 80. Yep, my dog's caught wind of something again. Even when I'm not standing in that standard, that back flip whip hits for almost 60 still. Like 59 on when it crits. Yeah, 59,684 right there. Pretty damaging smack right there. Adding abilities in here that I don't need at the moment. Hitting things in the wrong order. It seems to be doing pretty well still without the Maelstrom staff. laggy, laggy. The only thing about this dummy, it just takes so long to take down. Maybe they should make like an 11 mil one of these. Make it not take so long. Ooh, 82k. We hit execute phase. That whip will hit like a truck in execute phase with this out. There it was again, another 82k. It's hitting for almost 50k regular as well, as you can see. 49 something there. .45 not inside the standard, so it's pretty good regardless. Push right through to the end there. Alright, so 67,643. With the Maelstrom, I can get 71, 69, 71, 70. It stays pretty consistent since I got the rotation down, somewhere between 70 and 71. So that Maelstrom staff does make a difference, but you're still going to hit almost 68k without it. So, regardless, you're still hitting very, very well. There are a lot of people that aren't even coming close to that type of number on a trial dummy. So this setup is very nice for being able to do a lot of damage, not have to spend a whole bunch of time in trials trying to get perfected versions of gears, or just trying to find a trial to get into and hoping somebody gives you the piece that you need if you didn't get it yourself. Now, it is going to cost you gold, unfortunately. You're going to spend gold on the Spell Strat and gold on the Elfbane. Maybe you already have Spell Strat and Elfbane and never thought of putting them together. But this isn't going to work immediately on console or PC. This is only working right now on the public test server, because this is the changes that are coming to the next update 25 with the Horror Storm dungeon and whatnot. So this is still not set in stone as well. That may get changed. They may change the duration of Elfbane back to 2 seconds, or they may shorten it to 3 seconds or 4 seconds. They may cap out the ticks on Zon at only 5, so that doesn't happen anymore. I mean, there's a lot of different things they could do, so this is not set in stone. It's not a guarantee this is going to be this way when Harrow Storm, pops off. But for the time being, that's what it looks like. If we go into our combat metrics again, we're looking at Zon having done well over 2 million in damage again. 60 some hundred damage per second from something that's only proccing once every 18 seconds if you get the perfect proc on it. So this is it's a really cool setup like this. It really is. Just for the shits and giggles of it as well. Obviously, Inferno staffs on both bars. One I have Nirnhone just for extra damage when I'm on this bar, because this is my single target bar where I'm spamming a lot of things, so I want that extra damage to go off. You can use Infused on this with this magic recovery glyph that you have, and really never have a problem with Magicka. It'll drop your DPS a tad little bit, but as you've seen, I didn't have too many problems with sustain. I never was, in the bottom of the bucket with Magicka by any means. So it's not necessary. But if you find if you do something like this and you find yourself having problems sustaining, you can always go with infused to give yourself some more sustain. You lose a tad bit of damage in the process, but it's not going to kill you by any means. I am using infused front bar staff with the weapon and spell damage glyph on it. Infused. If I didn't say that, I'm pretty sure I did. Just for the 100% uptime that I'm going to get on this glyph from that unstable wall. The unstable wall or the blockade are both going to reapply the glyph, even if you're not on that bar anymore, because it was a weapon damage ability that you used while you were on that weapon. So you can keep a 100% uptime on that 452 weapon and spell damage, as long as you make it back to reapplying your wall before it completely falls off. I am using divine pieces on everything, all of my body pieces, and everything is in max magicka except for my visage, my head. This is heavy, and I left it with the health enchantment on there, and that's because we're not using a food that adds health to us, so we have to squeak out little bits of health here and there. So everything is divine. My jewelry is all spell damage with the Bloodthirsty trait on all three of them. Bloodthirsty is only going to ever really outperform Arcane and Infused in like trials, or where execute phase is still like 25 million hit points. That's when you'll see Bloodthirsty shining the best. That's where you're going to get the most damage out of your Bloodthirsty jewelry. So it's really a preference. If you want to go with Arcane, or if you want to go with Infused for more spell damage, by all means, go ahead and do so. The Bloodthirsty is only going to help when it comes to the larger trial dungeon or trial monsters that still have a lot of health left during execute phase. Dungeon bosses, it really doesn't matter that much. I still use Bloodthirsty jewelry in dungeons, mainly because there are a few dungeons, and in some trials as well, where it requires you, when you hit execute phase, to be able to get through execute phase really quickly. Like Sunspire, when you hit execute phase, you have to, you want to take that final dragon down as quick as possible. With Falkreath Hold, that final boss, he does all those shouts. I'm not sure if they have changed it at all at this point, but before, he had shouts at 70, 50, 30, 10, and 5, if I'm not mistaken. And when I'm using Bloodthirsty jewelry and I'm running with somebody that is or even isn't, we can push from that 25% to killing that final boss without ever having to run behind a pillar again and hide, because we can just push him through those shout phases so quickly that it never triggers. So there are situations in your veteran dungeons where Bloodthirsty jewelry really comes in handy, but it's not a necessity, like I was saying. So if that's something that if you like having more maximum magicka or higher spell damage from your arcane and or infused traits on your jewelry, by all means, go ahead and do it. Bloodthirsty is just a preference. Trait on jewelry is just a preference regardless, in my opinion. Like, whatever you like to run. I'm cool with that. But this Elfbane set is a heavy armor set that's found in Cyrodiil. So you do want to only get the weapons and jewelry. The jewelry will be in healthy, which is going to add maximum health. So you are going to want to transmute it regardless, whether it be changing it to arcane, changing it to Bloodthirsty, or changing it to infused. It'll be your preference, but your the healthy trait. I mean, I guess you could leave it on there if you wanted more health, but you're gonna suffer damage wise from it. But real quick, champion points that I have done on this is I'm still gonna mess around with these. These aren't set in stone either. 40 Warlord, 75 Tenacity, 75 Arcanus. This Tenacity doesn't need to be this high because I'm not even heavy attacking with this. But I still keep it in there just in case I have to. If I'm in a dungeon or a trial that, you know, if it's like a pickup group, so to speak, a pug group, sometimes you might want to have something in its Tenacity because you may not get healers that are, you know, on top of helping keep up with the amount of magicka that you're using or the amount of stamina you're using, depending on the character that you're running. So I tend to keep this in here just in case. If you don't like it in there, you can put it anywhere else you want. I have 72 in Tumbling, 8 in Shadow Ward. I prefer to dodge roll more than I block, so I've kind of front-loaded my Tumbling for roll dodge. Now, my red tree, 72 Ironclad, 26 Spell Shield, 26 Light Armor Focus, 49 Hardy, 49 Elemental Defender, 48 Thick Skinned. This is another tree that is very just subjective, wherever you want to put them. If you like having quick recovery, put some things in quick recovery. If you have shields that aren't Sork shields that are capped, you can always put things in Bastion to give yourself a little bit more of a meaty shield. I keep these this way because it gives me a good split between my spell my spell resistance and my physical resistance. I'm mitigating a lot of direct damage attacks. I'm mitigating a lot of AoE and elemental and physical types of damage. But like I said, that's subjective. You can put them where you like. Now in the blue tree, I have 61 in Elfborn, 56 in Elemental Expert. I have 31 in Staff Expert, 61 in Master at Arms, and 61 in Thaumaturge. The DKs have a lot of damage over times. I like to call or refer to using a DK as playing connect the dots. So there are a lot of dots on this build, so I make sure that I keep some points in my Thaumaturge for buffing those dots. And I like having things in my Master at Arms as well because I'm still doing those lava whips and such. So try to keep an even keel between those two. Staff Expert, I'm doing a lot of light attacks, so whatever. This setup right here is more focused on like the Trial Atronach dummy. This isn't giving me any type of spell penetration. As you can see, I don't have anything in my erosion. You don't need a ton in erosion, to be honest with you, but you can always, you know, take a few out of, you know, your Staff Expert, or maybe take a percentage out of your Elfborn right here and add in some erosion to give yourself a little bit more penetration. Like I said, this is set more up for that Trial Atronach where I don't need the penetration. So, and if you're running in a group that's providing all the buffs and debuffs, or close to all the buffs and debuffs that the Trial Atronach has, then this is the type of setup that I personally would run in there. I'm going to mess around with these a little bit. I might find a little bit better of a setup on my champion points. This is just the first thing that I went with just off the top of my head. I might be able to lower some out of Thaumaturge, give myself a little bit more Master at Arms, and give myself a little bit more Elemental Expert and Erosion, and get some different numbers out of it as well. So I'll mess around with it a little bit, but that's where I keep my champion points for now. The skills that I'm using, very simple rotation, very simple skills. I am using the Blockade of Fire. I am using Degeneration. I'm using Barb Trap. I'm not a big fan of the channeled acceleration because of the 1.3 second cast time on it. I don't know. It bothers me. I don't know why. It shouldn't, but it does. But I'm getting the same bonus, the same minor force that I'm getting from that and it's doing a little bit of damage. Now, granted, it's not doing a ton of damage by any means, but it's doing more damage than channeled acceleration is and giving me the same buff that channeled acceleration is. If you don't like being too close to the battles and having to throw out your barbed trap, then channeled acceleration works. There's the race against time morph of that as well, where it doesn't last as long as channeled acceleration, but it is instant. So if you're not having problems with Magicka Sustain, you could always use that and just throw it into your rotation where it's something you hit every time. So it's up to you. The Scalding Rune right here, this is kind of flexible to me. I'm not I'm not worried about if this is used or not, so to speak. I don't have Magicka Sustain issues, so I'm throwing it in there. But it is something that you could skip and still pull in like the 68k range with the Maelstrom Staff. So it's not a necessity, it's just a nice little buff. It really is. I am using Inner Light. This is giving me more maximum Magicka and a spell critical rating of 10% while on this bar. And I have Shooting Star on this front bar, but I'm not really using it. This is my Trash Mob ultimate. If there's a bunch of Trash Mobs, I can throw this down, hit everything with it, and then get ultimate back for each thing that I hit with it. So it's you can throw these out and get them back really quick. My main ultimate that I'm going to use in boss fights and whatnot is my Standard of Might. As you can see, normally this only stays up for 20 seconds, but because of my Elfbane, it's staying up for 25 seconds. It does flame damage every second during that time, and you increase your damage done and reduce your damage taken by 15% during that 25 seconds. Plus, it provides a synergy that the tank can hit, and if your tank has wearing Alkosh or something like that, you can provide a synergy for him that is going to debuff the boss for you, so you can do more damage. Inner Light once again on the back bar, just for the max Magicka and the spell critical rating. Flames of Oblivion. I have my Molten Whip. I have Engulfing Flames, and I have Burning Embers. The rotation with this is pretty simple, and it's done in a certain way for a certain reason. I'm doing Blockade of Fire, Light Attack, Degeneration, Light Attack Barb Trap, Light Attack Scalding Rune, and then I'm bar swapping. Then I'm doing Light Attack Engulfing Flames, Light Attack Burning Embers, Light Attack Flames of Oblivion. Then I'm going to Light Attack and use my Molten Whip like 6 times. Now, the Molten Whip has an ability on here where, while slotted, whenever you activate a different Ardent Flame ability, you gain a stack of Seething Fury, which increases your damage of your next Molten Whip by 33%, and your weapon and spell damage by 75% for 5 seconds, and it can stack 3 times. So that is why I make sure I get my Engulfing Flames, my Burning Embers, and then my Flames of Oblivion all active before I hit my whip, because that first whip is going to be that backflip crack, and it's going to hit for a ton. It hits for a lot, and then you can just kind of spam it 4 or 5 more times, bar swap back to your blockade bar, put it down, and restart. So it's a very static rotation. There's not any dynamic properties to it whatsoever. You can just that rotation I just put on there. It's kind of long, but there's no bar swapping between abilities or anything like that to keep up or to buff anything. Yeah, it is just your dot bar and then your single target bar. So it makes for really nice and easy rotation, really good damage output, and the type of damage that you're going to pull is going to be able to help you complete harder veteran content a lot easier, so that you can start getting better at what you're doing and finding different trial guilds and whatnot, and get into those guilds, and then start farming the harder gears and having things like that, and completing end game content that maybe some of you haven't been able to complete yet. But And I think that's all I got on this DK at the moment. I don't think I need to go over anything else on this, to be honest with you. No, it doesn't appear that I do. All right, guys. So thanks for joining in, and thanks for watching and giving me a chance to show you some of the things that I'm doing on the PTS. I'm going to hop characters. I'm going to jump off. I'm going to eat. I'm going to hop characters, and then you'll probably see me go back live again here before too long with a stam character, because I got something to show you on that stam character as well. But that's all I got for you guys. Thank you very much for tuning in, and happy adventuring, everyone.